Welcome to History with Herodotus, where we delve into the fascinating tales of the ancient world. Today, we embark on an epic journey to explore the rise and fall of Carthage, a city that once rivaled the greatest powers of the Mediterranean. As we begin our tale, let us set the stage for the emergence of this remarkable civilization. In the 9th century BCE, the eastern Mediterranean was abuzz with the activities of the Phoenicians, a seafaring people renowned for their mastery of trade and navigation. It was during this period that the Phoenician city of Tyre, situated on the coast of modern-day Lebanon, began to expand its influence across the Mediterranean. The Tyrians established a series of colonies and trading posts, which would eventually give rise to the mighty city of Carthage. Our story begins in the year 814 BCE, when the Phoenician queen, Dido, founded the city of Carthage on the northern coast of Africa in what is now modern-day Tunisia. According to legend, Queen Dido was a cunning and ambitious leader who had fled her native Tyre after the murder of her husband. She sailed to the shores of Africa, where she negotiated with the local Berber chieftain, Iarbas, to purchase a piece of land on which to establish her new city. The site chosen by Queen Dido was a strategic one, situated on a peninsula surrounded by the Mediterranean Sea and a large lake. The city's natural harbor, which would later become a key factor in its success as a trading power, was protected by a series of hills and mountains that rose up from the surrounding landscape like giants. As we imagine the early days of Carthage, we see a bustling port city, filled with the sounds of hammers ringing against anvils, the smell of freshly cut wood, and the sight of ships coming and going from all corners of the Mediterranean. As Carthage began to take shape, its founders established trade relationships with other cities in the region. The Phoenicians had long been masters of the sea, and their expertise in navigation and shipbuilding allowed them to dominate the maritime trade routes of the ancient world. Carthage quickly became a hub of commercial activity, attracting merchants and traders from all over the Mediterranean. One of the key figures in Carthage's early development was King Ithobal, who ruled from around 880 to 840 BCE. During his reign, Carthage continued to grow and prosper, with the king overseeing the construction of new buildings, roads, and public works. He also expanded Carthage's trade network, establishing relationships with other cities in the Mediterranean and beyond. As we explore this formative period in Carthage's development, we begin to appreciate the complex web of alliances and rivalries that would come to define the city's trajectory. We see a city that is both deeply rooted in its Phoenician heritage and yet open to the influences of other cultures. The early history of Carthage is marked by its interactions with neighboring cities, such as Utica and Hippo, with whom it formed trade agreements and rivalries. The cultural diversity of Carthage was a hallmark of its society from its earliest days. Phoenicians, Greeks, Italians, and Africans lived and worked together, each contributing their unique skills and traditions to the city's development. For example, the Phoenicians introduced their system of weights and measures, while the Greeks brought their expertise in architecture and engineering. As we conclude our examination of Carthage's origins, we find ourselves poised on the threshold of a new era, one in which this remarkable city will rise to prominence, forging its own path amidst the tumultuous landscape of the ancient Mediterranean. The stage is set for the emergence of Carthage as a major force, driven by a passion for exploration, commerce, and conquest. Join me, if you will, as we venture forth into the heart of Carthage's story, where the drama of human ambition and the intrigue of international politics await us. Welcome back to History with Herodotus, where we're exploring the rise and fall of Carthage, a city that once rivaled the greatest powers of the Mediterranean. As we left off in our previous tale, Carthage had just begun to take shape under the leadership of its founders, including Queen Dido and King Ithobal. By the 7th century BCE, Carthage had established itself as a major commercial center, with trade relationships stretching from Spain to Syria. The city's strategic location on the northern coast of Africa made it an ideal hub for merchants and traders who came to exchange goods such as grains, olive oil, and metals. Carthage's harbor, which we mentioned earlier, became one of the busiest in the Mediterranean, with ships arriving and departing at all hours of the day. One of the key factors that contributed to Carthage's success was its expertise in navigation and shipbuilding. The Phoenicians, who had founded the city, were renowned for their skills in these areas, and they passed on their knowledge to the Carthaginians. As a result, Carthage became a major shipbuilding center, producing vessels that were highly prized throughout the ancient world. For example, the Carthaginian warship, known as the trireme, was a marvel of engineering, with its 3 rows of oars and sleek, streamlined hull. As Carthage's wealth and influence grew, so did its military power. The city began to expand its territories, establishing colonies and trading posts throughout the Mediterranean. One of the most notable examples of this expansion was the founding of the city of Utica, which became a major commercial center in its own right. Carthage also established relationships with other cities, such as Rome and Greece, although these relationships would eventually become complicated by rivalries and conflicts. The cultural achievements of Carthage during this period were equally impressive. The city became a center of learning and culture, attracting scholars and artists from all over the ancient world. For example, the Carthaginian philosopher Hanno wrote extensively on topics such as astronomy and mathematics, while the city's poets and writers made significant contributions to the development of Punic literature. As we explore this golden age of Carthage, we see a city that is confident, cosmopolitan, and deeply connected to the wider world. The Carthaginians were masters of the sea, and their ships sailed to every corner of the Mediterranean, bringing back exotic goods and new ideas. They were also skilled diplomats, able to navigate the complex web of alliances and rivalries that characterized the ancient world. One of the most fascinating examples of Carthage's diplomatic prowess was its relationship with the Etruscan city of Caere in what is now modern-day Italy. The two cities established a close alliance, which lasted for many years and allowed them to cooperate on trade and military ventures. This alliance was just one example of Carthage's ability to form strategic partnerships with other cities, which helped to secure its position as a major power in the Mediterranean. As we reach the height of Carthage's power, we see a city that is truly remarkable, a center of commerce, culture, and learning that has risen to prominence through its own efforts and ingenuity. Join me, if you will, as we continue our journey through the fascinating tale of Carthage, a city that will forever hold a place in the annals of history. Welcome back to History with Herodotus, where we're exploring the rise and fall of Carthage, a city that once rivaled the greatest powers of the Mediterranean. As we continue our journey through the fascinating tale of Carthage, we now find ourselves at a critical juncture where the city's remarkable ascent to prominence is followed by a series of challenges and eventual decline. By the 3rd century BCE, Carthage had reached the zenith of its power, with a vast empire stretching across North Africa, Spain, and the Mediterranean. However, this period of dominance was not without its challenges. The city faced intense rivalry from Rome, which would eventually become its arch-nemesis. The First Punic War, fought between 264 and 241 BCE, marked the beginning of a long and bloody conflict between Carthage and Rome. One of the most significant consequences of this war was the loss of Sicily and Corsica, two crucial territories that had contributed significantly to Carthage's wealth and influence. The war also led to a significant increase in Carthage's debt, which would become a major burden on the city's economy. Despite these setbacks, Carthage continued to thrive, thanks in part to the brilliant leadership of its generals, including Hamilcar Barca and his son Hannibal. Hannibal, one of the greatest military minds in history, is famous for his daring crossing of the Alps with war elephants during the Second Punic War. This campaign, fought between 218 and 2001 BCE, saw Hannibal inflict a series of crushing defeats on Rome, including the Battle of Cannae, which remains one of the most brilliant tactical victories in military history. However, despite these successes, Carthage ultimately lost the war, and Hannibal was forced to return to Africa to defend his city against a Roman invasion. The Third Punic War, fought between 49 and 146 BCE, marked the final chapter in the struggle between Carthage and Rome. The war saw the Romans, led by Scipio Aemilianus, lay siege to Carthage, which eventually fell after a brutal and devastating campaign. The city was razed to the ground, its inhabitants sold into slavery, and its culture all but eradicated. This marked the end of Carthage as a major power in the Mediterranean and the beginning of Roman dominance over the region. As we reflect on the decline and fall of Carthage, it's clear that the city's demise was the result of a combination of internal weaknesses and external pressures. The constant wars with Rome had taken a devastating toll on Carthage's economy and military, while the city's leaders struggled to maintain unity and stability in the face of adversity. Despite its eventual decline, however, the legacy of Carthage continues to fascinate and inspire us today, a testament to the enduring power of human creativity, ingenuity, and perseverance. In conclusion, the story of Carthage serves as a reminder that even the greatest civilizations can rise and fall, often due to a combination of internal and external factors. As we continue to explore the annals of history, we would do well to remember the lessons of Carthage and to appreciate the complexities and nuances of human societies in all their glory and imperfection. Join me next time on History with Herodotus, as we embark on a new journey through the fascinating world of ancient history. That's all for today's History with Herodotus. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, remember that to understand the present, we must first understand the past.